No worries, Hagrid, you're safe for this list. Really, the only reason for that is that Hagrid literally gets put on leave nearly every year, so he's basically fired every book. The professors on this list were lucky and never saw the same scrutiny our favorite half-giant went through during the series. Umbridge literally force-fed truth serum to the students and didn't get fired, and that's not even on the list. That's how wild and uncontrolled the professors of Hogwarts are. And yes, I know what you're thinking. You're right. Most of these entries involve dark arts professors. How could it not? Sorry, Umbridge, I must not tell lies, and the truth is, you suck. Seriously, you can't make a video about fireable offenses committed at Hogwarts without mentioning this wicked witch. God, just hearing that nasty giggle of a laugh makes me mad. Yeah, that's the one. Great, now I'm gonna be pissed off the rest of the video. Okay, so this entry could have been about her using truth serum on Cho Chang to discover where Harry was teaching Dumbledore's army. However, that's only included in the movies and changed from the books. Harry is force-fed a fake potion by Snape in the books. Umbridge almost uses the Cruciatus Curse on him, if you remember. So that little bit of inconsistency leaves me forced to focus on how she tortured students with almost no repercussions. Face it, a nun slapping you with a ruler is bad, but making students forcibly cut themselves is even worse. Physical abuse as punishment doesn't belong in any school, including Hogwarts. We hate Umbridge for a lot of reasons, yet her quill punishments take the cake. The scene with the young student crying after still gets me every time. Yeah. It's not really Mad-Eye Moody who turned Malfoy into a ferret. Still, it's less confusing than saying Barty Crouch Jr., alright? Anyway, for a lot of people, this is a controversial moment. Some of us love watching Malfoy get what he deserves, but that portion of Malfoy stans in the fanbase aren't huge supporters of this moment. So, yeah, on the one hand, Malfoy is definitely about to hit Harry with a curse, so some kind of response is warranted. Seriously, listen to Draco and what he's about to say. Imagine if Mad-Eye didn't intervene. Of course, Professor McGonagall, the patron saint of Hogwarts punishments, tells it like it is. He can't punish students by turning them into ferrets. That's a fireable moment from by far the craziest dark arts teacher in the entire series. You know, part of me wonders if Barty Jr. does it just to spite Lucius. I can't imagine he's a massive fan of the Malfoy family getting away scot-free from the Death Eater trials. Maybe in his head it was a small token of retribution for that as well. I don't know. It's just a little headcanon I like to think of whenever I rewatch the series. Makes that scene even funnier in my mind. Ah, Lockhart, please never change. He's so embarrassingly useless that a younger me loved watching him fail so spectacularly. I think many people feel the same way when they first watch the movies or read the books. I look at it this way. Lockhart is the first wildly flawed wizard in the series that is not a student. It makes the world of Harry Potter feel more attainable. If Gilderoy Lockhart can fool everyone, then maybe a trip to Hogwarts isn't totally out of the question for a muggle, right? So the Cornish pixies were definitely the first clue that this guy is super unqualified for the job. As far as dangerous things released by dark arts professors go, it's probably near the bottom of that list. Yet, he scrambles into his room like Sir Brave Robin in Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Brave Sir Robin ran away. No! Bravely ran away, away.
It's pixies, for crying out loud. Hermione was able to stop them, and she was only a second-year student at the time. But you can't fire Lockhart for a lesson gone wrong. Otherwise, a bunch of high school chemistry teachers without eyebrows would be out of a job in an instant. I'm pretty sure accidentally removing Harry's bones from his arm was the last straw. Seriously, only at Hogwarts does that not involve the teacher getting fired. Severus Snape was never getting fired from Hogwarts. He's Harry's secret guardian, and that means Dumbledore needs him to stay close to Harry. I'm pretty sure Snape was a jerk before that deal was struck, but it certainly encouraged him to act however he saw fit. Nothing he did was off limits. Albus needed him around to keep the plan in motion. In hindsight, it explains so much. Snape quite literally hits Ron and Harry at one point in the fourth movie. Sure, that's not Dolores levels of abuse right there, but they're not smiling after taking a book across the back of the head either. That right there is the behavior of a man with nothing to lose. Now, I wouldn't fire Snape for just that, but he does something worse in the fourth book that we can't skim over. I literally said earlier Dolores should have been fired for forcing students to take Veritas Serum, yet here's Snape threatening Harry with it just one movie earlier. Oh yeah, he also threatens to hurt Neville's toad, which is also not cool, like at all. Snape was held to a lower standard for a reason, but just picture McGonagall doing these things. That's right, you can't. Okay, I'm just gonna say what we've all been thinking. Remus Lupin should have stayed on as a defense against the dark arts professor. Yeah, that's the whole thing about him, helping Dumbledore avoid public backlash for hiring a werewolf and the fact Voldemort jinxed the position. Besides all that, he was clearly the best teacher the class ever has during Harry's time at Hogwarts. Even with that admission, Lupin did something that would typically get him fired if he had not resigned. No matter how you try to spin it, at the time, Sirius Black was a criminal and escaped prisoner. Obviously, he was innocent, but the Ministry of Magic didn't know that. Imagine if they found out that Lupin had helped him in the castle and helped him get to Harry Potter. The aftermath would have been devastating. Yeah, I'm including Lupin on this list because of a technicality, but it's still a fact. On top of that, Lupin was using a confiscated magic item for his own personal gain. I don't know if that's against the Hogwarts bylaws, but it's certainly a gray area. All this said, I doubt Moony cares for the rules of Hogwarts. He broke them as a student, so it's only fitting he breaks them as a teacher. Slughorn is a low-key controversial character. I see many fans give him grief, and trust me, we'll get to that shortly. However, I think many people miss the fact that he's proof of what a true Slytherin is. His collection of famous students and drive to see all his classes excel show what determination in a Slytherin can do for the betterment of Hogwarts. The real issue is two things he did with an immoral motivation. I want to discuss that tiny conversation with Tom Riddle he partakes in back during his first stint as potions professor. He quite literally generates a false memory of that night to protect his standing in the wizarding world. In the Muggle world, we call that obstruction of justice, which is also illegal. Like, as much as I want to defend Horace Slughorn for his complexity, the guy did give the most powerful evil wizard a trick to staying alive longer. Think about how many people would still be alive if Professor Slughorn learned to keep his mouth shut. I'm pretty sure that knowledge was restricted for a reason, dude. That's right, it's back-to-back Slughorn entries because, why not? The use of Felix Felicis as a plot device in the 6th book works to significant effect. It introduces us to the expertise of the Half-Blood Prince during the potion brewing contest, then gives us character development from Ron. Finally, it's the entire reason we're even able to know about the previous entry at all, so it's clear that Felix Felicis or Liquid Luck is a great potion and plot device. Then why am I including this on the list against Slughorn? Consider all the ways a student can use Liquid Luck. Yeah, the minute you think about what harm it might do to the school, it becomes clear why this is a terrible decision. So what if only Snape and Harry ever won the award? The consequences still could have been dire. Consider just this one scenario. Harry wins the Liquid Luck and doesn't need it to get Slughorn's memory. You know, let's even pretend Voldemort is out of the picture for a moment. What would stop Harry from using the potion before his newt exams? Yeah, not a harmless gesture now, is it? Slughorn just hypothetically helped a student cheat? Of all the entries on this list, none frustrates me as much as this one. I like Professor Sprout, but I can't ignore this. In Chamber of Secrets, the second-year students happen to be learning about Mandrakes just in time to be useful to the plot. You remember that scene, right? It's the one where they all look like they're going out for a snowball fight in the middle of August. Did we miss the fact that they wear earmuffs because the cry of Mandrakes is fatal? I'm sorry, what? She literally put every student's life at risk at that moment. Why is she even trusting second-year students with this lesson then? Gillyweed is way less dangerous, and they could have been learning about that instead. I get that Neville is a herbology expert by the end of the series, but he wasn't even close to that in second year. He passes out at the sight of these buggers. Sprout thinks he's done for too. She thinks the Mandrakes got him, and she just leaves him on the floor to finish her lesson. That's reckless. Wizard or not, you can't leave a kid passed out on the floor without medical attention. Back to Mad Eye for yet another edition of Barty Crouch Jr. terrifies his students. This time around, it's all about how he forces a bunch of fourth-year students to watch him use curses on a defenseless spider. Look, I'm not providing earth-shattering news here. I think we occasionally get desensitized to the oddities of the wizarding world, so let's try to compare it to a real-life Muggle classroom. Picture a police officer coming in for career day. That's sweet, you say to yourself. Now imagine him teaching your students how to identify strangle marks on a victim. Yeah, see? Suddenly we're out of bounds and this class turns into an episode of Mindhunter. Essentially, that's what Mad Eye is doing when he lectures about the unforgivable curses. To top that off, he inadvertently tortures Neville while doing it, and you know how I feel about professors who do that. Dolores. So I think it's safe to say Mad Eye needed to be fired for this one. It would have also stopped Voldemort from returning a little longer and saved Cedric, just saying. If you only ever watched the movies, you might not remember the Carrows at all. Well, let me tell you this much. Amicus and Electo Carrow are the two worst professors to ever step foot in Hogwarts Great Hall. The two of them were Death Eaters hired by Snape to keep control of Hogwarts. You can see them in the final movie during the confrontation with Snape. They are way worse in the books though, and the film barely touches on it. See, the Carrows use the Cruciatus Curse on students to keep them in line. Yeah, remember how Umbridge earned a top billing for almost doing that to Harry? These two did it as frequently as McGonagall gives out detentions. Even first-year students received this punishment. Makes it glaringly evident that they get a spot on this list now, doesn't it? Okay, it's a miracle that Dumbledore avoided this list, but he's not a professor, so I'm gonna give him a pass. Now, if something happens in the Fantastic Beasts series, we'll keep you updated. But we're watching you, Dumbledore. Always watching you.